Hello and good evening. My name is Kelly Kingston and I am your host for the Business Today show. With me this evening, I have a very special lady. She loves shoes, handbags, and loves to purchase them wherever she is on this beautiful planet. She has 4 beautiful daughters and 9 grandbabies. Oh my gosh. And she loves to eat out as that there is no more children left in the household. Please make welcome Tracey Horton.
Thanks, Kelly. It's nice to be on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with us. I've heard so much about some absolutely awesomeness that you're doing with your book and your public speaking and just how you're actually introducing all your years of business into your business, traceyhorton.com. So I'm really looking forward to you supporting our viewers because Business Today shows all about businesses supporting businesses. So
nice.
We ask a series of questions to put out a whole heap of answers, tips and tricks that could help other people in their businesses at this particular point in time that could be struggling in their business.
Great, perfect.
Okay, so are you ready?
I am.
Okay, cool. So first question, Tracey, how did you get started in business?
Okay, so I have an accounting degree background. And we moved here 25 years ago from New Zealand, and I had 4 young children, and I discovered Australia was going to be hard to get into the workforce, so I started my own bookkeeping business. I've run that for 25 years, and just in the last sort of 4 years, I've sort of been able to hand some of that over to a couple of my daughters, and I've overlaid this real sort of mentoring, sort of legacy leadership type program that I've created to help other women who are younger than me and further behind in business, because as you would imagine, in 25 years, I've learned a lot, how to really do their business. Because I think, my heart and passion is for younger women to be able to do it really well. As a sidebar, I wrote a book called The Unhappy Smile, which was the story of my life and how I overcame it, which sort of took on a bit of a twist, I guess, because I ended up speaking internationally I spoke in, I think it was 18 countries in 2 years. So that kind of opened up a real international market for me. So I now have business clients all over the world, which is a bit of a challenge sometimes when I'm doing a 4 a.m. meeting.
Wow. So you did 18 countries.
In 2 years, yeah.
In 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, what was the favorite country that you really loved going, that kind of really embraced everything that you brought to the table?
I think because my heart is to help, I have this real side passion. My husband and I have a charity beside our business, which we're big believers in. So India, I guess, is where my passion project would be most served in helping women get through abuse and overcome trauma. But my favorite country I visited in the whole world was Portugal. Loved it, fell in love with it, really loved it.
Wow, okay, cool. So tell us, I have a registered charity that's attached to all my businesses as well. So can you share with us what you're doing in your charity and what your charity's name is and where people can find you?
Yep, so our charity is called Salt Culture Incorporated, and basically we work locally, we're working with families that fall through the cracks, because in Australia there's an incredible amount available to you from the government if you fit a certain socioeconomic structure. But then there's a big gap for those that just get caught out by life. Hubby leaves, we've got the largest number of homeless women in the world, which just breaks my heart. So we kind of work locally just supporting those sort of women and men and young families, helping them. Internationally, my husband is a builder, so we've got 3 or 4 countries we help build orphanages and help support those.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You and me have more in common now. I didn't know that about you.
I know, Kelly, we do. Birds of a feather, my darling.
I know, right? I'm just about to support a project for Rock Against human trafficking.
Nice,
with 4 other entrepreneurs around the world, and
Great.
yeah, where
Great.
it's like, my gosh, it was only mentioned a little while ago, and then the 4 of us all coming together, it was like boom, 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 boom. We're all supporting our unique talents, and it's just so good working with people that align with you and have that heart connection. Do you know what I mean?
It's lovely. It's lovely. It's so good. But it's probably it's the way we should be doing business.
Pardon?
It's the way we should be doing business in 2020.
Totally. Absolutely heart-based, conscious business.
Yes.
Striving for a higher purpose, higher than ourselves, to be able to support humanity from a much bigger perspective. And I can't wait to actually have a couple with you now. I don't mind one of the two.
Yay.
So we've talked about your business, your book, your international tours, 18 over the last 2 years. What else is Tracey got happening?
So this year, I started the year quite roughly, actually, with a bit of health issues. So I'm actually grounding myself. I've been invited into America for a few months to work with a big conglomerate of African American women, but I've actually grounded myself locally. So the first half of this year at home, I'm just rolling out this beautiful program that I've got, which is called The Linguistics of Subconscious DNA, which is really helping people to understand who they are and how they were made, because I'm a big believer that if you know who you are and you understand the intricacies of you, then you can pretty much make the rest of your life happen. Because I think people often get caught out because they take on something and then they're not skilled for it, or they don't understand it. But the truth of the matter is that we aren't all that different, but we're uniquely different. And when you understand that, when you understand that a bunch of entrepreneurs all look the same, we all speak the same, but you and I are different. And there's this little DNA cell in our personalities and in our love languages and in our intricate understandings and our intuition that makes us uniquely different. When we understand all of that, we can truly function happily in just who we are. And so I'm rolling that out. I'm still doing, of course, a lot of business work. I work with a lot of business. I mentor a lot of people on business, because I'm a big believer that most small businesses need the big business help, but they can't afford it. So I package really simply big business advice for small businesses at a small business cost. So I'm doing a lot of that, and I love that because you get to see people grow, which I love.
Yeah, no, me too. I love that as well. So supporting small businesses in the way that you're doing them, how else do you support others from your struggles, from where you have seen yourself over the last 25 years? So, we know that there's huge amounts of lessons and we learn, and sometimes we fall to the ground and bury our head in our hands and go, oh my gosh, why did I make that mistake? And then we see a little bit later down the track and go, oh my gosh, that was the best thing I ever did. But at the time, it seems so daunting. So have you ever had a moment like that?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I often say to my children and everybody else that listens to me, my best teacher was mistakes and failure. I've failed quite a lot because I'm a real push the boundary sort of a girl. Like, if somebody tells me I can go to the edge of the cliff, I'll just see if I can just leap a little bit over. And I've always had really big goals. It's just who I am. If it doesn't frighten me, it just doesn't wake me up really. And so I have made a lot of mistakes, but I always say this to my clients: a mistake is just a learning curve if you only do it once. So work out why you made the mistake. So for me, I always said to myself, why did I make that mistake? Sometimes it was miseducation. Sometimes it was lack of support. Sometimes it was lack of self-belief. But whenever I worked out why I did it, then I could address it. And I'm a huge advocate for collaboration between small businesses, which is the reason I'm on your podcast tonight. And the reason I think so much of you, Kelly, because no woman, no man, no small business can stand alone anymore. There's not enough support globally for this. We have to make this and we have to rally. And the animal that becomes a small business owner, the beautiful person that becomes that small business owner, they're not afraid to stand alone. But the problem is when you fall. And there was a couple of times early in my business. There was one time when my daughter got appendicitis and she was rushed to hospital. She was 4.5. And overnight, she ended up in there. We discovered she couldn't take a general anaesthetic, so she arrested on the table. They saved her, but she ended up in ICU for 4 days. And I forgot I was a business owner, and I forgot about doing some people's payroll. And I went into hospital, the business owner of a very successful business, and I came out 5 days later to half my business. And I really had to own the fact that I had made that mistake. And it really taught me that business is something, it's like another child. You really have to learn it, grow it, love it, and foster it. So the first thing I did was I decided from that day on I would always have staff, whether I could afford it or not, because I had a life that was going to hiccup along the way, and I had to protect everybody, myself, my name, and my clients from that.
Wow, that's a big one. And
It's a big one.
Yeah. So I had a client. I'll just quickly share this little thing that's rather relevant to where you're at. Is they were starting off in business, and they came to me and they said, "This is where we're struggling." And pricing was their biggest thing, Tracey.
Right.
And I said to them, "Well, go around and just do a research check on other people that are doing something similar to you in business and price yourself into the market," because they didn't want to spend a lot of money, but I was more than happy to support them, as I am with everybody. And
Nice.
and so they didn't price themselves into the market. And 6 to 12 months after, if they'd priced themselves into the market, they would have been ahead financially and way more stable in their business. But what happened was one of the, I think the wife got sick, and she was the roots of the business. She went to the networking event, she did this, and this. The husband did the backhand, and their business fell apart, and they had to go on Centrelink benefits.
Yeah. I see that all the time, because as small business, when we started, I believe we depend on the money way too early. I tell all my small business clients, you have to allow this to grow. So I always tell them they have to have their own separate bank account, and the business has to stand on its own 2 feet. And whenever something happens like this, you have to talk about it with somebody who can view in, because here's the thing, if you're sitting in the frame, you don't see the picture. So, I have a lot of people that will call me up and say, "Tracey, I just need 20 minutes of your time. This has happened. What do I do?" Because they would have been better off spending some of that money to put somebody else in to keep that business running. And it's just how it goes. It's just what has to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. Even when you're starting off in business, there's VAs these days that you can find, and they can support you for, not very much output, not very much income, not very much, what are the words I'm looking for?
Outlay, not much outlay.
That's right. I'm all about profit tonight, Tracey. It's in my brain.
But you know what, Kelly? Here's the thing. We live in a country where a lot of women get a degree before they have children.
Yeah.
So in my business, I access a lot of stay-at-home mums to help me. And I tell you what, if you ever need help with digital marketing, if you need help with anything that's going on digitally or socially, and I'm 55, I didn't learn any of that till I was 40. But yeah. I've got mums that stay at home, and I pay them a very reasonable amount, and they lock into this. They've got a first baby, good baby. They're used to working 50 hours. They can't wait to work for me and some of my clients. But we've also got women that have been traded out and made redundant at 56.
Yeah.
Now, I have a 58-year-old lady who comes to my office, and all she does is data entry. She's quick, she's efficient, she's reliable, she's honest, and she does not cost an arm and a leg. But she's so grateful, and it gives her identity. It gives her some worth. Because here's the thing, she was made redundant at 57. The top accounts person in a top place couldn't get another job because of her age. When she went to Centrelink, do you know what they said? you're too old. We're going to exit you out. We're going to just put you straight on the pension. She was heartbroken. So can you imagine the identity she'd get from coming to work for you for 2 hours, 3 hours? We have a wealth of women sitting in this country that we can use.
And Tracey, I found out about 2 years ago, if you have a charity organisation and you have got your mums that are at home and their kids aren't over the age of, is it 9 or 8, where they can still get a pension at home if they're still looking after their kids. After that age, if you donate 15 hours of your time to a registered charity organisation, you get to keep your full pension.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. There's a special form at Centrelink that if you volunteer for 15 hours a week, you get to still keep your full pension and Centrelink benefits and payments and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. That's great to know. I must look into that. Awesome, thanks.
No, you're welcome. Okay, next question. What advice would you give a health and wellness seeker on their journey into the business industry of their choosing?
When you start to go into business as a health and wellness practitioner, most of them are very talented in specific modalities, and they're normally very heart-centered businesses. So my advice would be talk to somebody who can back end that for you, who can facilitate your fiscal responsibilities, set up your processes, have your KPIs set in place, because heart-based people, when they go into business, there's a very unique thing that happens to them and them alone, Kelly. They attract very quickly people that need them, but not necessarily people that can pay them. So I've had a lot of people in this field that have come to me after 6 and 12 months, and they're barely making ends meet, because their energy of desiring to help and change the world has been vibrating so high. They've attracted a whole lot of clients, but most of them couldn't pay the full price, so they gave it to them less. Most of them couldn't come back as referrals because they'd stretched to pay it the first time, and there was nothing set up for them to have this beautiful turnover of repeat business where they could be working with someone and seeing them transform. So my advice to these people is always, you are a very niche market, and to be particularly good at what you do, you actually need somebody in your court, and it can be a family member, it can be a friend, it can be part of a collaboration group like this, just watching these podcasts every Monday night, and just learn some of the other stuff, how to fiscally lay out your business so that it creates this beautiful income, because you are going to have that issue of attracting people that want you but can't necessarily afford you, and you have to be able to transform that into business to survive. You just have to.
That is amazing advice, Tracey. Like, I'm not too sure if you know about my book, but my book is a business planning book where I've brought spirituality and business together.
Nice.
For the wellness business owner. And you mentioned something a minute ago that the individual that is starting the business has high vibration. So as a wellness leader or a wellness business owner coming into business, they know nothing about business. They just, do the bits and pieces that they know, or they engage mentors like yourself and myself, and they go, oh, I only need that just now, and I just need that just now, or I need that just now. And they process that whole aspect, but they don't delve right into the personal development so that they're not emotionally attached to any outcomes of, if they have a client coming to them and they say, oh no, I can't afford you, and then they want to barter.
Yeah,
and that's
right.
I've seen it at the expo on so many different levels.
Yeah.
They need to uphold that professionalism that, no, I'm worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
And in their business, their vibration is down here because they're not totally aligned with the business process and themselves. And that's what my book does. Okay. It helps them raise their business vibration and
Nice.
their personal vibration so that they are totally in alignment. And my tagline is, what frequency is your business vibrating at?
Nice. I like that. I like that. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So we have a lot in common, Tracey.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Yeah. And I love these shows. I get to find out everything about everyone. And I go, oh my gosh, what more can we pull out of you, Tracey?
Yeah, for sure.
Where's your next trip overseas?
It'll be into America. Like I said, I won't be going anywhere before June because I have to have an operation. I've been playing cat and mouse with that a little bit, taking medication, then I can't take it when I travel. But in January, I did travel to New Zealand and I came back quite unwell and I ended up in hospital, and that was when my doctor came in and said, Tracey, you need to stop. So I agreed to stop for 3 months. So they're going to give me the surgery in March, very minor surgery, but very important surgery. And then I'll recoup after that, and then probably into America to work with some women that I've got lined up there. Yeah, looks good.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your book? Have you got a book there?
No, I don't. Sorry, I don't. It's called The Unhappy Smile. So a little bit of background for me. I was born in the early 60s to a very broken home. My dad was a schizophrenic with 5 personalities. And by the time I came along, my parents had been married a couple of years and he'd tragically ruined my mum. She was quite AWOL and an alcoholic. So I grew up very broken. By the time I was 12, I'd been sexually abused by 12 different men. And, you know, that should always come with a trigger warning. So I apologize ahead of time if that did trigger any of your listeners. But I was at 18, I was working at Dominion Breweries and my boss caught me drinking on site. And he sent me to a psychologist, and the psychologist asked me some questions, and I told the truth, Kelly, for the very first time in my life. Because, you know, it's hard enough to talk about sexual abuse today. But back in 1980, nobody was talking about it and nobody cared.
No.
And so when I told him the truth, he put his pen and paper down and he said to me, we can't help you. He said, you'll need to be medicated and by 30, you'll be dead or unable to contribute to society. And I was 18 years of age and my life just flashed before me. And I got such a fright and I was so concerned. I gave myself 5 years and I literally went looking to find the answers. And I studied all the healthy families of the kids I went to school with. I asked questions, I found courses, and that was hard work in 1980 because they weren't around. There was no heart space businesses like you and I run now where people can just get advice. There was nothing. But I found some stuff and I discovered some real keys. I discovered 9 keys. And so, and when I turned 50, the gift I gave myself on my 50th birthday was I launched that book and I released it. And I self-published it so that every copy I ever sell, even to this day, 1 copy is donated on behalf of whoever buys it. So if you buy a copy, then somebody in a refuge here in Australia receives a book from Kelly Kingston, not from me. And
oh my gosh, you're too much. Gosh.
Well, you know, you've got to help those that need it. And then I did some work going into some of those refuges and talking to the women who'd received the book. And Women's Economic Forum in India found out about it. So they asked me to come and they asked me to receive an award, which was very beautiful of them. And from there, I just kept getting booked and booked and booked and booked. So that's how it sort of all began.
Oh my gosh, tell us about your award and how it felt like being up there accepting the award in another country.
So India was very impacting for me because I grew up very poor, but I grew up in a wealthy country. And Australia, I believe, is the same. You can be poor in this country, but you're undergirded by wealth, which means there's places for you to get food, there's opportunities for you, there's laws that work in your favor. But in India, those women don't have that. They don't have any undergirding, any support. It is not against the law to this very day, it's not against the law to rape and kill a woman in India. And that breaks my heart. So because I'm really a heart person, so I was so impacted just being present in the country. But I received an Exceptional Woman of Excellence Award and I was on stage with 8 women. And true to Tracey's self, I had breakfast with those 8 women that morning to discover what they did. And I kind of wished I hadn't because they were incredible. And so, so I'm on stage receiving awards. Like one woman was a solicitor and all she did was give her time for free to children being abused in the Bronx in America and going to court and advocating for them. Another woman feeds 400,000 orphans in South Africa every year. So not only was I sitting on stage thinking how I could support them, I was feeling very, very intimidated that I've written one little book. And the universe taught me the biggest lesson of my life, because I got up and I was the 7th out of 8 women to speak. And I just was really honest. And I said, look, I feel so humble even being on the stage. I said, after hearing these stories, I don't have an incredible story like that to tell. And as yet, this book hasn't impacted hundreds of thousands of women. But I wrote this book, and then I just shared my story and I said, I want to tell you that I wrote it for all of you, but in honest fact, I wrote it for my grandchildren. I wrote it so they would know that their grandmother was somebody who did make a big difference in life. And I turned to walk away, and Harbeen Aurora, Dr. Harbeen, was standing right behind me. And she said, turn back, Tracey. And the 2,500 women were on their feet. And most of them—
You're going to make me cry, Tracey.
Most of them were crying. And then she said, now turn around. And the other women were standing on their feet on the stage. And I realized then, Kelly, that it doesn't matter how big or small your business is, your life is, your story is, book. If you do it with the intention to change one life, you will change 100,000. I promise you.
Oh my gosh, you've nearly left me speechless. That doesn't happen very often.
I get that a lot on these shows. But that was such a big lesson because, you know, I was severely abused as a child. I was sexually abused by 12 different men before I was 12. But do you know the hardest thing I ever had to get over was the voices in my head that I won't amount to anything. I won't be able to achieve that. I won't be able to do that.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the stuff you carry with you. And that's the stuff when in business, those voices come back, and they come back every time you can't meet rent, you know, in the beginning of your business, every time you have a bad day and you go home and even your husband doesn't get your vision, or, you know, your partner walks out, those voices come back. And all I can say is grab a memory, because for me, that memory will never let those voices speak again, because you know, the excuses aren't valid. They just aren't. And when you understand that, you can be a different person.
Yeah, and Tracey, I really understand what you're saying when you say that, because when I was going through my journey of, you know, that transitioning of being around people that, you know, used to suck the life out of you and tell you how terrible you are, but then one minute you're so terrible, but you're so wonderful the next. So, you know, that oh my gosh, what are you? What am I? Do I love you? Do I hate you?
Yeah, for sure.
What is this world and what is this relationship? And when I decided to get every single toxic relationship out of my life, it was like, oh, I have no one to talk to. Yeah,
for sure.
Because everyone in my life at that particular point in time was extremely toxic. So it was so scary. And so the only thing that could help me get the voices out of my head was to pull Louise Hayes's affirmation cards. I used to pull 10 or 20 a day, and then I got the chalk pens.
Yeah.
Those really big windows, ceiling to floor, and I wrote everything on there, exactly how I wanted to feel.
Good for you.
What I wanted to embrace and attract in my life. And even with my 3 kids, at the time, I've got 4 now, God bless their little cotton socks. Yeah, it can be done.
Yeah, it can. It can. And only you can do it, because here's the thing. Inside of your mind, you have this 40 millisecond structure called the bigger surprise. So every time I speak to you, you work out in your subconscious whether the biggest surprise would be that what I say is true or false. Let me give you an example. Kelly, you're the most beautiful woman I've met. Now, if you don't believe that, the biggest surprise would be if that's true. So you instantly say, that's got to be false, right? So here's the thing. People can't tell me I'm going to succeed in business if I've never succeeded. If I believe that I've never succeeded, somebody like you and I can't walk up to them at a breakfast and say, you are going to succeed in this. This is incredible. So when I work with them, my first 21 days is always about unpacking what they truly believe.
Yeah.
Because the day I realized that my excuses weren't valid, the day I realized that all the people that had hurt me weren't even thinking about me, Kelly, they weren't giving me a minute's thought. So what on earth was I doing with my energy? Why was I giving it? When I started dealing with that and closing those doors, I tell you what, I became a woman nobody could stop. And then, when I was sitting next to women like you at breakfasts and you were saying to me, you're incredible, I was like, you know what? That's true. That's so true.
I bloody am incredible.
Yeah.
And you have to believe it. And if you don't believe it, you don't belong at this table.
That's right. That's right. You know, but it has to start with you at first. And that's why I love what you're doing and I love being part of these things, because if we don't collaborate, these girls get isolated and they forget this stuff.
Yeah.
They forget. Every successful business they're looking at on Facebook had a week when they didn't make rent, had a week when the staff walked out, had a week when the husband looked at them and goes, do you have to bring it home? Do you have to talk about it at dinner? We all had those weeks.
Yeah.
But we got up, we understood the excuses weren't valid, we collaborated and we moved on. And they have to know that's available to them. So they do the long yards.
Absolutely. And sometimes women, I know because I did this, knew what needed to be done, but procrastinated at the same time and prolonged it because we don't know what we don't know, right? And that space over there scares the living shit out of us.
Yeah.
As soon as we're sick and tired of being, you know, wiped on, crawled on, cried on,
yeah.
do dishes, do this, do that, do this, and nobody cares about us. You just come up bigger, better, and stronger, and you just want to be able to just be the best version of yourself. And another big thing is, I used to cry a lot, even when somebody said, you know what, this is so beautiful what you're doing, Kelly, and I used to just go, I couldn't even say thank you, or I couldn't say anything. I would just cry.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so how about we get a little touchy here and just step on some sacred cows, as I love to do.
Okay, go.
I think that women in business need to understand how strong the feminine energy is, because the thing you're talking about, most of the time, women think they have to lay down their intuition and their womanly giftings to be a little masculine to make business work. But here's the fact. The feminine energy is able to be the boss chick. The feminine energy is able to own her space. And the only times I've really failed in business, when I think back, my intuition was actually talking to me and I denied it because I thought I would put into place this application, or I thought I'd put into place this procedure, or you know what, Tracey, don't be so touchy-feely around your business. But you know what? The truth of the matter is, if you're a female entrepreneur, your intuition is actually activated at quite a high level. And this is where I think, your book is probably brilliant for these girls, because here's the thing, if you don't actually listen to that, you're going to go and make some mistakes. And I've learned now, I listen to it all the time.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with you, Tracey, at all.
Yeah. For sure.
Wow. Yeah. There's so many women out there that are wanting to change their life. Like I spent yesterday, or was it the day before? Yesterday morning with my sister. She's a year younger than me. Okay. And she wanted to, start her own business. And she's always worked her butt off. Okay. Day in, day out. But she's too scared to take that leap. And she's, you know what? If she took that leap, she's stronger than me and funnier than me. Where I hold more of a unique wisdom, she would bring in the strong funny for the woman that can't see that she is strong and funny, and that she can then stand up and hold her own. And every time I see her, I just hold her and I go, come on, you can do it. Bring it on. She goes, oh. And then she compares herself to me and she goes, I'm not like you. I just can't do that. And I said, there was once upon a time I couldn't even do a live.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm all over it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So do you have any brothers and sisters?
I have one sister. I don't talk to my mum and my dad and my sister because it was such a chaotic childhood, and we actually got broken really early. So I don't really have any family connections like most people do, but I do have a sister who's 3 years younger than me. Yeah. I'm very close to my husband's family. He's got a couple of sisters and they're truly like my sisters. I get on really well with them.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. I don't speak to my part of my family either, my father and other people, due to the misalignment, I'm going to say, in respect and treating, people the way that you want to be treated.
For sure. You can't make people treat you the way you want to be treated, but you should never not treat yourself that way. So if people don't line up with it, you have to send them off with light and love. You just have to let them go, because you're not doing them the favor and you're not doing yourself a favor. So, you've got to break it up, because, life is too short. I tell you, Kelly, you're going to end up 55 and empty nested before you know it. It does happen quickly, I can promise you that. And I think that we get caught up in thinking we owe it to people. We owe it to stay in relationship because that's the construct of our culture.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, family is a definitive word that we can define for ourselves, and it should be with people that are aligned with us, not with people that can't be. And in my case, mum and dad and my sister, we just can't align. It was just broken really badly, really early.
Yeah. And
so it just has to be what it is.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. Yeah. You're talking about empty nesters, Tracey. I'm probably 19. I've got a 4-year-old, and I don't think she's going anywhere even after she turns 21 or 25.
You don't know.
You know what? She says, Mum, I'm never leaving home. She's like so smart. My 16-year-old who just got her learners today.
Yeah.
I can't wait to move out, Mum, and you can get my glory box and you can come and help me decorate the unit. And I said to her, what are you going to buy all your furniture with, Michaela? She goes, oh, you're going to buy it for me. I'm like, oh, am I?
Don't you love it? Don't you love it? So we had 4 girls under 5. So they were just under 5 years apart. So the last one got married 2 years ago, but prior to that, we had 4 weddings in 2 years. So yeah, my husband doesn't like to talk about the fact we spent $118,000 on weddings in 2 years. But weddings are expensive, and one of them was Hamilton Island, and we had to fly 25 people up there. Like they all got pretty big, but they're done and dusted now, and they're beautifully married to some great guys. So we're very, very fortunate.
Oh, that is awesome. It makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, perfect. So how can people find you, Tracey? Like Facebook, website, Instagram, LinkedIn? Do you want to share?
Yeah, so they can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. They can find me on all of those. Facebook is, because obviously we're on Facebook now, so Facebook's the easiest way to contact me through Messenger. LinkedIn, you can send a message. Instagram, I have to tell you, my social media is overseen by somebody in my staff, and they're going to be listening to this saying, Tracey, can't believe you didn't give all your handles. But I also have a website, traceyhorton.com, so they can catch hold of me there too. But pretty much anything they do on social media will get back to my office pretty quickly, and then they alert me and say, Trace, you need to do this. So we're all over that.
Awesome. And if somebody wanted to buy your book, where do they go?
To the website, traceyhorton.com.
Okay, awesome. And if you had one last word or sentence or a bit of advice or just wisdom for anyone that's in business right now that is just about to just throw the towel in and say, it's just too much, I can't do it anymore? What would you tell them?
Okay, so if that person is talking to me right now in those tones and saying those words, the first thing I'd say to them is, you are further along than you realize. So whatever you do, stop right now in all your traction and take stock. Because for you to have got to that place, you would have done something. You would have set up some structures. You would have set up some business. It's never over till it's over. And in this country, a lot of businesses go under when they don't need to. So the first thing I'd say to them is, it sounds to me like you just don't have the support, the help, or the policies and procedures in place to do it. Because here's the thing. If you are running a business and you're doing it 50 hours a week and you're not getting enough money from that business to have a life where you're madly in love, you are going to burn out. It's a given. It's an absolute given that you will have stress levels way too high and you will have burnout. And when that begins to happen in your cellular structure, your mind is going to tell you you have to quit. You have to run from that thing that is bringing all of that pressure. But you don't. All you need to do is get somebody to help you, because you're in the frame. You're part of the picture. And if you just get somebody outside of the frame to help you, they can probably tweak 2 or 3 little things and it'll be working perfectly in no time. And you deserve, you're better off stopping and taking stock and starting again from where you are than from ever trying to take back and start from the beginning. And you were never intended for failure. So you need to remember that whatever's happened, it's a lesson. The best lessons I've ever learned, Kelly, was when I failed. Every time they were the best taskmaster. They were hard on me, and then they just brought the gold. They brought the understanding of what I needed to change and what I needed to grow on. Because life is a journey, and we get caught up in thinking we have to get to a certain destination. I wish every businesswoman was a multimillionaire at 40. But some of them are never going to get this, but some of them are going to only have $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 turnover, and it might take them till they're 55. But it doesn't define them. It doesn't matter as long as they're having a life they're madly in love with. And that's the key, is that it has to encompass your life. So when people work with me, I always get them to look at the holistic thing. My husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer 2 years ago, and it was a horrific time for us. He has healed through some natural products, and we're really okay right now. But at that moment, I was so grateful that we had lived a life where we loved it, because all of a sudden things got really shaky. And we had a business that we loved. We had a business that was going how we wanted it. I didn't make that mistake I'd made all those years ago, those 20 years ago, when all of a sudden, because I had to step out. I had to step out because that news was really hard for us. It was very unexpected. So I stepped out for 2 weeks, but this time I had structure. This time I had staff. This time I had women that could step in and do it for me and carry me. And that's the key.
So you work with your husband?
No, I don't. No. Okay. He's semi-retired.
Okay.
He is he's a humanitarian, so his time is spent between pretty much changing the world, one little bed at a time, one new shower at a time in some orphanage. So Paul does that for about 6 months of the year, and the other 6 months of the year he's very fortunate because he's an extremely good builder, has built for 40 years, because we were the kids that left, in our generation you left school at 15 if you were going to be a builder. So he's been building 40 years. So Paul commands a fairly good wage doing project management.
Yeah.
And just advising people on what to do. And so pretty much he balances those two alongside me, and he lets me do all the stuff I want. That's what he says. Tracey, you just do what you want. I said, oh, how I wish. I said, I'm doing what I know to do.
Absolutely. Hey, my partner and your husband are going to get on so well, because my husband, he goes, okay, Kelly, you're not going to be happy unless you're doing something you love. So just go do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Go do it. And I'm so like, really?
Yeah, that's right.
Really?
Yeah.
Can we really do that? And he goes, yeah. So, and then that's where, I didn't understand business.
Yeah.
But I understood spirituality, but I wanted to understand business so that I could write the book and
Nice.
get it out there to
Yeah.
the people that didn't understand business but understood spirituality, and bring that whole aspect of bringing their frequency up and the business
Nice.
frequency, and just making it so successful for them.
Perfect.
Because
Perfect.
a lot of them don't even think that that would ever happen for them. They're happy just to do, you know, the weekly hand to mouth thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I don't believe that, you know, everybody needs to be in that space. I believe it should all be.
I don't think anybody should be in that space. If you're living week to week, you're 2 weeks off being homeless. That's the statistic. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm a very heart-centered person, but I'm also a very realist, and I have an accounting background. So if your business has one client that's giving you over 50% of the work, you're not self-employed, you're employed by them. Yeah. And if you are living from paycheck to paycheck, you are literally 1 month off being homeless if something happens. And so, you know, just take stock, just help work out how to do it differently, work out how to change that, because you don't want that. You don't want that to happen.
Yeah. And if it's hard-based and you're really, really wanting it, and it's your true purpose and passion for your journey, and you ask for it, you're calling it in. And
either with a heart-based business, you have to work out one of two things. Is it meant to be a charity that you do on the side, or is it meant to be a business?
Yeah.
Because we all have heart-based stuff, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I've written a book and I'm speaking and traveling the world for that. I don't expect that to sustain me for quite some time, because I have a large component of that I'm willing to give, because I want every woman that's ever suffered trauma to have access to that, such as giving away 1 copy for every copy sold and stuff like that. Yeah. But when it comes to my mentoring and my other businesses, I'm doing that with the same passion, but I'm making a living out of that. And if I'm not, I'm asking myself, why not? Because that is actually something that I want to make money out, and I need to make money out of it, because we get caught up with money. Sometimes we just think it's bad, but money is absolutely just a piece of paper till it takes on your DNA. And in my hands, it equips other generations. It pays for modalities for people who can't afford it. It sustains a life I love. It creates a heritage for my grandchildren. You know, I attract money, I want money, I have plenty of money. It's coming into my bank account every day through my business, because I intentionally plan on doing something with it. And I plan on doing good with it, and I plan on enjoying it.
Amen, Tracey.
Yeah.
Yeah, call that, everybody. Do it. No excuses at all.
No.
Really?
No. The excuses aren't valid. They aren't valid. And if they seem valid, say them out loud to someone else, because they're not valid.
Yeah.
Not one of my excuses was valid, Kelly, and I'd listened to them for years.
What was one of the excuses, Tracey?
That a poor girl that had been abused before she was 12 couldn't be a voice, couldn't be somebody other women would look up to.
Yeah.
And that day in India, I was the only person in a 4-day conference of 2,500 women that got a standing ovation. The woman that was doing the least at that time, what it looked like logistically. Because I was honest. I talked about my grandchildren. I was honest. I was honest.
My gosh, how did that make you feel? Like, really?
It was a phenomenal moment for me, because I hadn't had any of those moments under 7 when they do form this really strong self-esteem. And I guess it empowered me to realize I was actually doing something I was meant to do at the right time. Because when I wrote the book, I literally purchased 2,000 copies and thought, if I give them away, that's okay. But they started selling from the book launch, and people started wanting them. And then I printed again, and then, you know, and it was all very exciting. And then one day my granddaughter asked if she could read it. And I was really confronted with that. And I thought, hang on, I don't know if she's old enough, because she was only 9. And so I spoke to her mum, my daughter, and we decided none of them should read it till they're in their teenage years, because some of our stories in there, and we wanted them to have the maturity to deal with that, because it's Nana, you know, they'd be pretty touched by it.
Yeah.
And that was when I sort of thought, you know what, if I only ever get 9 copies and these guys know what I went through and how I did it, and they get that, they grow from that, that would be enough. And it's just taken off. Everywhere I go, people are just loving it. I mean, even when I was in hospital last week, I looked over and somebody was reading it in the other bed, which was pretty cool.
Oh my gosh, and you didn't know them?
No, I didn't know them, no.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was very cool.
Ah, see, so you are meant to be in these places and spaces to be able to see the things that you don't necessarily would see if you weren't there.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. Oh wow. That's so cool. Is there any last words from you, Tracey?
No, not really. I just want people to know that, you know, in business, the best thing you can give yourself is collaboration and belief. If you've got those two, you can sort the rest out. Because there's people like me that work inside your business and look at it. There's people like you that teach that energy balance. You know, there's a lot of experts around now. Yep. And if you just collaborate with them, if you just get inside their circles, most of them have something you can purchase at a very low price. So you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to work with any of us, you know. Yeah. And in fact, I do a 3-hour session where I look at businesses and I sit inside it, I look at it and I give them some KPIs for the next year, and I tell them how to critique some stuff so they can double their income or produce their products in half the time or whatever they want to do. And I find most of the time that is, I price it really reasonably because it's part of my heart. But I also find that most of the time that's all businesses need. And, you know, with you and others, there's, you know, sometimes it's just 3 hours in the presence of someone who's doing something really well that you can learn from and glean from, and you can just adapt it. So just believe in yourself and collaborate. Grab hold of all of the beautiful resources available to you.
Yeah, and take an hour out of your day and listen to this show.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. And not turn on the idiot box and watch a show that you'll never get anything out of.
For sure. And if I can just say, I was in London in November, and I was speaking at a women's conference, and it was a 2-day conference. So I spoke the first day, and then we went to dinner. The dinner cost £125, which is 255 Australian dollars. So it was a lot of money for me to spend on dinner. But I was the opening speaker the next day, and I thought I just wanted to get to know some people. So I sat at a table. I was seated at a table with 4 women I didn't know. Every one of those women sat on their phone, updating social media, talking about what they'd done that day, because they were all speakers as well. But here's the thing, Kelly, they all had products I would have bought. So the next morning when I opened, I asked if anybody would like to make $70,000 out of me, and all their hands go up. I said, would anybody pay $100 to have lunch with me if they could be guaranteed the $70,000? Half of their hands stayed up. I said, now what about if you have to pay $100 to take me to lunch today, and yet that $70,000 I promise you will come in over 6 months? And the hands went down. And I talked about how even though we live on social media, you have to, if you want to build a business, if you are serious about growing and you don't hear anything else that I've said, you need to hear this. You have to reach out face to face and work with people, listen to people and learn from people. Because here's the thing, when you and I get together and we know what we're doing, if you come to me and ask for some advice about your business, I find out what you're doing. Yeah. I have a tribe of women. I've got a network of 100 empty nesting girlfriends that are just looking for the next best cause, the next pair of shoes, the next product, and maybe it's yours. But here's the thing, if you tell me what you're doing on social media, you're lucky to get a sale if I like it all. But you make contact with me through that and we begin to meet each other and work together. Yeah. You know what? It's limitless. It's limitless. I got 19 people in my family that could buy your product alone. You know?
Yeah.
I went to an event, and part of the gift for being a VIP was a thing called a cool clutch, which was a bag you could put your wine in. Right? Yeah. I bought 3 for Christmas because I've got an autistic grandson my daughter has to take medication for him at all times. So she doesn't have to walk around with a little Thomas the Tank Engine anymore. She's got a nice handbag. I I bought one for another daughter because she is a nurse and she freaks out about room temperatures and everything because she's anal. So she's now got a beautiful handbag and it's got a whole bit in the middle where her daughter's food is now being kept cold. Not hard, not rocket science, just relationship. It's all about relationship.
And you know what? That's what I was just about to say. We need to build relationships and make those connections, because if I hadn't have reached out to you to be on my show, I would never have found out that you have a charity organisation called Salt Culture, that you have spoken in 18 countries in 2 years, that you're an international author, The Unhappy Smile. And I love the way that you speak and define framing. Looking at, you can't, help yourself if you're still stuck in the picture. Get out of the frame. I love that analogy in helping people see that within their mind so that they go, oh, okay, I really get that. I can relate to that. It's very relatable. Yeah.
Great.
So, Tracey, I can't thank you enough. It has been an absolute honour to have you with me and on our show tonight. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Kelly. I'm a big fan. You're a beautiful woman and I'm a real big fan of what you do. So here to support you anything I can.
No, thank you so much, Tracey. So you can find Tracey Horton at her website, www.traceyhorton.com, and on Facebook, I think it's just the @ Tracey Horton and her page. She's got a business page as well. And that's Tracey Horton, is that international author, public speaker, and mentor.
Yes, that's it.
And Grammy Award goes to the host of the Business Today Show,
yes,
Kelly
Kingston. Well done, Kelly.
Thank you so much, Tracey. Thank you to all our viewers. We hope that you got something out of our talk today. All the wisdom, knowledge and education that Tracey has brought to the table tonight on our show, 25 years worth of business experience.
Yeah.
We cannot emphasize enough that there is so much information out there for you guys not to be thriving and striving in your business instead of starving and struggling. Don't need to be doing this at all. I thank you for joining us and I look forward to seeing you next Monday night with our special guest. She does hair and she puts makeup on and she is Australia. Susie Dent is going to be joining us here next week. How exciting, Tracey?
Oh, she's fantastic. She's actually one of my clients and a close friend. You're going to love her. She is a ball of fun, a ball of laughter. She is going to rock your boat. She's great. I love her.
Yeah. I love her too. She's the best.
She
All
is.
right. Thank you so much, Tracey.
No problems. Bye.
Bye.